Evan, 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 can you hear me?
Yeah, I
Here
can.
you are. Hi, Evan.
Hello.
There, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
All right. I'm sorry. I thought you were at 9:30. I apologize.
That
This is
happens.
my fault. Before we get started, I'm going to give you a little background about myself. I have a degree in
Okay.
ag, and so I'm very familiar with arboriculture. And
hmm
so as we do this interview, I may have some questions that come to mind and ask them. Are
Yeah,
you
that's
okay
right.
with that, or do you just want to go
Yeah.
straight off the script? Okay.
No, I don't. I do a lot of a lot of news pieces, and never have a script.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
I do have some guests that aren't comfortable with that, and that's fine. I'm just the interviewer, so I have no control over the editing or when it's going to be posted or anything like that. So I like
Okay.
to. I have some people that think I'm, a one-person show, and I'm not
Yeah.
really that. So if you're ready, we'll go ahead and get started.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Welcome to another episode of Timber Talks, the art and science of arboriculture. I'm your host, Mindy, and today we have a very special guest with us. Joining us is Evan. Okay, I'm going to start again. How do you pronounce your last name?
Dackow.
Dackow? Okay,
Dackow. Like wacko
Dacko.
with a D.
Oh,
Yeah.
Dacko. All right. So I'm going to start
Yeah.
again. Welcome to
Okay.
another episode of Timber Talks, the art and science of arboriculture. I'm your host, Mindy, and today we have a very special guest with us. Joining us is Evan Dacko, the Vice President of Jolly Green Tree and Shrub Care. Evan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for
Evan,
having me, Mindy.
oh, no problem.
I'll be
I'm
here till
really
4:30. I got more than
really
enough.
interested in this topic. I'm just really interested in the advancements and stuff that's going on in the field. So, Evan, let's start by discussing some of the key innovations and advancements in the arboriculture industry. Can you share
No,
how
why
the
don't
field has
you won't
evolved
show
over the
me?
years and what significant changes you've witnessed at Jolly Green Tree and Shrub Care?
Uh, Considerable. We've been around for 48 years now. My father started our
Wow.
company in 1976. So, in the beginning, it was single tanks, and you cut from front to back, right to left. Personal protective equipment wasn't even a whisper back when my father started. The old story is that you knew you were in trouble with the climber when he threw his beer bottles down at you. Yeah, this is how you know.
Yeah.
So, now we're in a point where THC, plant healthcare is on a prescription level basis. We're using a lot of micro injection. We're, I'm doing inspections on trees via drone. That's, who the heck would have thought that? It was, what can I see from the ground? Or maybe I put a climber up there to, get some third hand information. But,
Yeah.
the fact that for a few $100s, I can get a drone up there, and inspect trees like that and get a full visual canopy, and, get 100-foot view, a 200-foot view, which wasn't possible with outside of a helicopter.
Mhm.
I can do that via my smartphone. It's incredible. And the other stuff like air spading, you go back, I think it's been around about 20-25 years, things that we've utilized from other industries.
Did you want to?
It started out in the utility industry, and it's become one of the more useful tools we have for physical decompaction and everything else
Mhm.
of trees and overall plant healthcare.
So you're looking, the innovations have been more toward tree healthcare and trying to keep the trees versus sort of like a clear cut approach. If a tree's got a problem, you just take it down.
Yeah, a lot of guys that was the answer. Plant healthcare is truly in its infancy. Realistically, arboriculture is one of the youngest sciences we have outside of even genetics goes back to Mendel.
Hmm.
Back to the peas and everything like that.
Right,
Modern arboriculture really only goes back to Shigo,
right.
and Dr. Shigo was published, I think, in the 70s. You know, that's that real heavy duty understanding of what we have as far as arboriculture.
Right. Do you see AI playing any role in the future with arboriculture?
Some, you know, I think AI is going to help with scheduling because it's going to, you know, enable us to amass more data. Like, you know, we've gotten things down to growing degree days and everything, when things are hatching, when things are going to sporulate, you know, but I could see AI taking, you know, having a role in it in some aspects. You
Okay.
know, I know a lot of people who use AI systems for their office.
Hmm.
You know, that's what's answering the phone calls. You know, my social media, I have, you know, I can have automatic responses via AI.
Right.
Okay, you know, it's, you know,
So do you see robots possibly coming into the industry and doing?
some there's a lot of drone spraying happening right now.
Hmm.
You know, they're using drones in a lot of orchards.
Oh yeah.
You know, you can automate it. I no longer need to ask one of my employees to, hey, do you want to start at 2 o'clock in the morning so we can spray this material out of this tank on these trees
Hmm.
where nobody is anyway? Well, they've automated it. You know,
Right.
a certain amount of that is okay. You know, you can get out what you put in, but
Right.
that, you know, it enables people in an ever lessening labor market. You
Right.
know, that it's, you know, I know when my father posted a job back in the 70s, there'd be 25 people, 30 people walking in for the job,
Hmm.
you know, or there'd literally be people walking into the office and going, hey, do you have any work? I haven't seen that in 20 years,
Right. Right.
you know, so we have to adjust.
Right. So do you feel that the industry, um, that technology is going to come in to kind of meet that labor need, or do you feel that you know that people have a negative view of what an arborist does? You know, it's dirty and hot, and they don't want to do that kind of stuff.
Some aspects of it, you know, there's a lot of people who don't mind dirty hands and clean money.
Yeah.
You know, it you know, you can, you know, you own a company, I don't care what company you own, that company owns you. You know, I have a very understanding wife who, you know, doesn't question why I'm at the office till 8:30 at night. She knows I'm not out, you know, at the bar. She knows where I am. She
Mhm.
knows I'm at this desk that I'm talking to you from right now,
Right.
you know, but from an employee standpoint, you know, a mid-level, high-level management standpoint, you know, you're not worried about certain things going on. You know, it's an industry.
Right.
You know, a lot of people don't want to work inside. I'm one of them. You tell me I got to spend my whole day inside? No, thank you. I
Right.
got to go outside. That's where my stuff is.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I know agriculture has a very similar problem with labor because
Yeah.
it's not a well, some people view it as not an honorable type of profession. It's somebody else's, you know, somebody else's problem to get dirty and all
Yeah.
that stuff. And so they in ag, there's a challenge sometimes to hire people to grow our
Hmm.
food, whether it's
Yeah.
livestock or plants, because there's that perception of what it is, what the
Oh,
job
yeah.
is. Can you give us some examples of the latest tools and techniques that are making a difference in tree and shrub care? Because we've been talking about trees, but what about shrubs?
You know, it's AI to the ability to mass all that material. You know, the fact that I can carry in my truck an 800 power microscope, which is a digital microscope that linked to my phone via Bluetooth. You know, that I can really get in there. Okay, what's going on?
Hmm.
You know, and you know, just a simple thing of when I have an issue that I can't figure out, you know, be it something I haven't seen, you know, just the ability for the pathologist that I deal with at the research lab out in Cornell for Cornell University out in Riverhead, they can then put that into their sphere. And, it was 2015. I had a client call, had a tremendous problem with beech trees. All his beech trees were dying, couldn't figure it out. So I brought it to the pathologists, and, via their network, they were able to find this written about once the year before in Japan. So through technologies of translation and all this other stuff, well, Dr. Dolcher, she's a very small woman, but to the best of my knowledge, she doesn't actually speak Japanese. She couldn't read a Japanese report. But, things that can translate it and get it, and they can run that network, and, they're all tying into the same electron microscope in Riverhead, but they're all over the country, all over the world to have a conversation about it.
Right, right.
To diagnose those nematodes. There's a certain aspect of what we do that, can technology do it? Yes, but I like what we do because there's still a lot of me sticking my hands in the soil, grabbing the foliage, and getting the overall visual is a big aspect of diagnostics.
Right. Well, I don't think whatever machine or
Yeah.
technology we talk about, it's never going to truly replace boots on the ground and
No.
checking. It can save us some time. It can maybe give us some answers that we hadn't really considered, but we're having more and more
Absolutely.
problems from abroad. So we need to
Mhm.
have a broader type of diagnosis to figure out the problem.
Yeah.
Looking ahead, what are some of the emerging trends and future projects in arboriculture that you're excited about? How do you see these changes impacting the industry?
No, as far as future trends, I think the data collection via AI is going to be very interesting. And just, the more we're refining and getting better at prescription level control on certain bugs, certain funguses, all these things, the fact that people can identify a bug, a fungus, a tree, a lot of things, via, apps on their smartphone is fantastic, but a lot of it's, we're also losing certain aspects, which, okay, cool. You got to get the good with the bad, but it's interesting, sonic tomography has been very, very big. The ability to, pass sound waves through wood and figure out what's going on is absolutely, amazing.
So is that tool something that you have to hire a specialist to do, or is that something that an arborist, if they had the technology, could do themselves?
Oh, it's something armorists can do. It's as simple as, you know, a 1 day class or a week class, probably 2 or 3 days, you could achieve, true proficiency with it. There's a gentleman not too far from me. I'm on Long Island, there's a gentleman up in Westchester that, bought in the tomography, which came out of Germany, and, has done a lot on a lot of, old historic trees to figure out what's really going on inside, because, wood is different and that you can't just scan it. You can't, there's not a CT scan or something. We have to take and interpret what we have there, which AI is, from my understanding, doing a considerable amount to help differentiating between, the sound wood and, doing the risk assessment levels with it. 20 years ago, the fact that we could use a resistograph and read the resistance of the wood, with a tool is still amazing. I still utilize a resistograph. It's a very useful tool. But again, technology is not cheap. Resistograph 7,000. Sonic tomography equipment is $20,000.
Right.
It's to get the good setups. But if you're going to do this, and commit yourself to it, you have to have all the tools, or you have
Right.
to have access to the tools.
Mhm.
So,
So why do you think there's been this change? 20 years ago, we just take the tree down, and now, that's the last resort, is to take the tree down. So what do you think has spurred this change in approach?
I think the work of Dr. Scheidel, because Dr. Scheidel, I don't know how much you know about Dr. Scheidel, but Dr. Scheidel worked for the U.S. Forest Service, and he did a tremendous amount of research into rot in trees. And, he's the one who stopped the guys from painting the wounds and from flush cutting and doing all these things because of his research. I think it started in the 50s, 40s or 50s. I'm not exactly sure when it started,
Just why?
but, he came out and said, look, guys, what you're doing it wrong.
Mhm.
You don't have to address this. If you do this, you're going to cause this, and just that falling down, because we're only talking about information that was published in the 70s. So we're
Mhm.
talking about 50 years to change an industry. It's not a tremendous amount of time,
And
and really people have been taking trees down for a very long time, going back to double buck saws and an axe,
mhm.
anything that's wood, you had to take a tree down to get it.
Right, right. I have painted many many trees in the 70s with tar, and on the farm where we would prune a branch, and
Yeah.
and we did that for years, and it didn't change until I went to Purdue and was doing
Hmm.
grafting and stuff, and they were like, no, you don't do that anymore, and this is why.
Yeah.
So even my dad had some trees topped last year, and we were doing some pruning, and he wanted to get the tar, and I was like, no, don't you remember? You don't do that anymore, and this is why. And the reason, I mean, we could see it because it caused that tree to rot eventually,
Hmm.
and we lost the
Yeah.
tree. So we learned our lesson about, real world lesson. It wasn't just
Yeah.
a scientist telling me not to do that. um so uh how do you think these innovations that we've talked about will affect the role of arborists and their work in the next 5 to 10 years? Do you think that some of this technology that's so expensive is going to just become commonplace in the arborist
Oh, yeah.
toil?
The other day I was walking around Target. I had to pick up some stuff, and I'm walking around Target, and technology always gets cheaper. Someone else figures out a better way to make it. That the first adopters are always paying the most. I remember one of my clients telling me that his cell phone bill was $1,000 a month, and the service stunk. Now, I have, I'm paying a few $100s for the entire company, for
Mhm.
all the phones, for the entire company. Early adopters, it always ends up a little bit cheaper. Like I was saying, I was in Target, and I'm looking at a 75-inch TV that's now $500. A couple of years ago, that was 3,000, four
Mhm.
thousand. So yeah, everything becomes a little cheaper. The from the implements that we're using to the technology we can utilize in our office. We like the customer management software that we run has been able to streamline my secretary's day substantially. It has all these things. She can notify all my clients for 4 routes in 5 minutes. That used to be a half a day to sit there and make phone calls all day. The applicators used to come back at the end of the day, and they'd sit down and they make phone calls for an hour or two just to let their route know the next day that they're coming.
Mhm.
We can, I personally choose not to utilize it, but my customer management software would make these phone calls for me.
Mhm.
You know, I'm a big personal touch. I like being able to, you speak to me, you speak to Lacey in my office. I like that. Hey, these are the guys that come to your house. You get to
Mhm.
know them, develop a personal relationship. But that's more of a business, you know,
Choice.
opinion,
Right.
business choice. Yeah.
So do you see, like, we have robots that will mow our grass for us.
Yeah,
Um, do you see in the future, maybe 10 years from now, you just being able to program a piece of equipment that will go out and prune this particular branch that you want pruned? So it would replace tree climbers, or that type of approach. Do you see that coming in about 10 years or not?
maybe 10 might be more, but you never know what AI is going to be able to develop, but things like grapple saws, have been able to keep guys out of hazardous trees.
Hmm.
The back in the day, I remember, you'd go, if that tree's hung up, you have to go in that tree
Hmm.
to free it up.
Hmm.
Now, from log loaders to grapple saws, guys can. I was a guy that I knew, he had a grapple saw, here on the island, and I've seen him sit on top of his client's house, reaching over the house, taking the tree down, going around, dropping it in the front yard, and he went from a 5-man crew to a 2-man crew or 3-man crew. It's they'll eliminate a lot of labor and keeping people out of unsafe situations.
Hmm.
Because in a storm situation, it's what we're doing is not it's not not simple, not safe very often. It's calculated risk, but the ability to put a piece of equipment in there and take that out is huge. You know, whether or not we're going to have drone pruning, I don't doubt it. The battery technology alone has been quite considerable.
Hmm.
A lot of guys, the small limb saws. A lot of guys are going with battery limb saws, not because of mandates, because they like the fact that they can communicate with their ground crew 40 feet down, 50 feet down, because the saw is silent as soon as I'm done cutting. They like it.
Hmm.
I know guys who had to do it for certain job mandates, and then that became their limb saw. That was it,
Hmm.
and it's, you
Well,
know,
I was
certain
talking
things
to
it's working.
I was talking to another gentleman, and I'm in Indiana. So
Mhm.
um I was not aware that cranes were actually being used in the industry, because I just don't see that where I am in Indiana. And I was actually surprised that they were, I could see for, like, if someone was trying to plant a mature tree using
Mhm.
a crane for that, but I was very surprised at how commonplace this arboriculturalist was utilizing a crane. And I was just flabbergasted by it. I was thinking of the cost and everything else, but he was talking about his dad was using a crane in the 70s, and
Mhm.
that was a way that they set themselves apart
Yeah.
from the others. So it was just strange to me. I just couldn't envision a crane and pruning trees together. Do you see, just some people I've talked to? Do you
Mhm.
see? I know in the past, if you had an arboriculturalist come out to look at your trees on a residential property, that was, it was very expensive, and um, people who did that had some really valuable trees that they wanted to protect. So it really wasn't, unless you had a tornado or something like that
Mhm.
that came through your area. Do you see this service being more for residential? People who want to keep a nice landscaping or something like that, or um, do you see tree care being more of the high end type of thing for people to in their landscaping?
It's for everybody. If you have a tree, yeah, I always tell people you need to touch a tree every 3 to 5 years, and that you need to go through and prune it.
Mhm.
It's going to happen a little more often. I'm from Long Island, where we're a very strange bubble. The amount of wealth that exists on the island that I live on is tremendous. You know, I live, I live in Long Island, and there are billionaires who live within a mile of me.
Mhm.
I'm not a man. I'm not a wealthy man. I'm a trade guy, but that concentration of wealth is here. Most of your really heavy duty guys from Wall Street, they live on
Mhm.
Long Island. They're here. The head financial people, they're here. Major corporations, they're here. So, Long Island, I've always said it's a place unlike any other. But whatever happens, you're gonna have a tree fall. It's got to get taken care of.
Mhm.
Where it sits in your priority list is up to you. Um, Plant healthcare is one of two things. It's either we're coming in to deal with an issue. I have a certain issue and I'm going to come in and deal with it. We'll be in there a year or two. Or we have clients who have been on the properties for 35 years because we're viewed as maintenance.
Mm.
That's priority. That's access to disposable income. That everybody's, well, I just want to make sure my azaleas look nice. Most people have these azaleas not licensed. I'm just going to pop it out and put a new one.
Mhm.
But it comes down to, people's different priorities.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. Well, where I am, I'm in southern Indiana, and the tree care
Hmm.
typically is topping or removal. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's that's pretty much uh, the just of the tree care in my area. So hopefully we'll start getting some of this because I used to have Colorado blues planted in
Hmm.
my landscaping, and I'm not a subdivision person, never have been, live in a subdivision now, but um,
Hmm.
the concept of pouring your used motor oil on the root system of my Colorado blue and then telling me that motor oil doesn't kill trees. I mean, you know, anyway, it wasn't funny at the time. I can laugh about it now, but we know
Yeah.
what happened to my
It's,
tree. So
yeah.
that's how much respect, at least in my neck of the woods, that trees have. Just a sad story, but hopefully things will start changing. you know
Yeah.
um, what
Yeah.
steps in jolly green tree and shrub care are you taking to stay ahead of the trends and prepare for the future? So we've talked about AI. We've talked about some of
Hmm.
the technology you're using. Is there anything else? Do you read up on, new technology that it hasn't hit your area of expertise yet, or you just kind of wait for someone else to try it and then see if it is appropriate for you?
I'm always trying to stay on top of what's available, what's around. But honestly, it's attending education. A rising tide raises all ships. So, again, I'm in a population density area where we're very lucky. I have tremendous access to education. There's multiple associations on Long Island. We have Long Island Arbor Association. We have Long Island Landscape Contracts Association. We have Professional Certified Applicators Association Long Island. We have different vendors will put on educational seminars. The cooperative extensions out here will put on different seminars. There's stuff through New York State Arborists, which is an arm of the ISA, of the International Society of Arboriculture. They put on several major events throughout the year. So the access to education is where you do it because it's going to start in academia and it's going to work its way down.
Hmm.
Things, always come from different places. Like I was talking about the airspeed earlier. Airspeed actually started out in the utility industry as a way to unearth and excavate out power cables without having to use heavy equipment.
Hmm.
When they were doing that, they realized that, oh, look, all the tree roots have also been left undisturbed. And that has now worked its way into here. People are utilizing it in transplanting trees to maintain more of the root zone. Place. Sorry. There's a lot of stuff. I don't know.
Hello?
There's a lot of stuff available to us
Mhm.
for all sorts of things,
Well,
and
that's
that came from here,
Oh.
but a lot of it's going to come from academia,
okay. All right. So,
Okay.
so you sort of get your inspiration from academia.
Yeah.
Any other areas you get inspiration? I mean, I see the correlation between ag because we have precision farming and that drone use and
Hmm.
arboriculture is using very similar technology. Is there any other industry that you kind of keep your eye on as far
Everything,
as the technology that they're
Ev-
using?
everything,
Okay.
a wise man learned from everybody.
Okay.
It's you keep your eye open and go, oh, what they're doing, I can transfer to what I'm doing, and it's you just got to keep your eyes open. You never know where inspiration's going to come from.
Okay. All
You
right.
know, MRI technology came from space,
Mm-hmm.
and now that's, I injured myself, last year and I had an MRI and I saw, talk about it. Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking about the fact that someone discovered it, through a telescope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Who would think that one would go to the other?
Right, right. Well, that's many, many years ago. I've got drones myself, and I use my drones for ag purposes. But
Hmm.
I had done a business competition for a wearable drone for farmers, so that
Yeah.
they could. Because at the time, having a drone come out and fly over your field was very, very expensive. So the small
Hmm.
farmers couldn't afford it. But um, they had open use Landsat, so a wearable drone would work for a farmer, for a small farmer, and
Hmm.
but that technology, when I did the business competition, it just went way over people's heads, and you know, but
Hmm.
just that idea of that type of technology being used by the small farmer, and now small farmers are using drones, they're using, all sorts of stuff. So I agree with you. Different ideas from different disciplines and areas and science, and it's just percolating into different industries that we couldn't even imagine before.
Yes.
And it seems to speed up every year, you know, so which is
Yeah.
a good thing, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but um, people just have to learn to accept it, because I'm beginning to see a divide between we want AI used, we don't want AI used, and it's some other things that I do. So there's either people that are totally for it or totally against it, and it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. So
Oh, absolutely. You have two choices. Keep growing or get left behind.
right, right.
That's it. And look, my father's 72 years old. I do not expect my father to start embracing, you know, AI technology by any means.
Hmm.
There's a big thing with, batteries have come into the industry, all that. And, I was in a hearing one time and I said, at some point in my life, I will not own any equipment that's run by fossil fuel.
Hmm. Yeah,
Just won't do it.
right,
But again, technology is improving.
right.
I remember someone gave my father probably 30 years ago a battery powered sprayer, and it didn't work. But you know what? That was the first guy to try it. And then next, people just keep improving and, the simple improvements. Like I was very early in getting the electric powered backpacks, battery powered backpacks.
Hmm.
The first ones had the battery on the bottom, unprotected. The next ones put it inside of a case that was sealed, and just moving the battery made all the difference in the world and how long that piece of equipment will last.
Hmm.
You know, but from the thing that my father got that was useless. I remember we tried it and really didn't work well, to that is now commonplace, and the guys aren't tired anymore. Utilize technology in every aspect of your life.
Right. Well, I
So,
just recently did a product review for battery operated chainsaw, and I'm
mhm,
only 5'1". So, I'm not extremely large
yeah,
person. Um, but I've used chainsaws my entire life, and it's got a kick to it for a person my size. And
hmm,
this one was just a little battery operated chainsaw, 2-hour battery life. Um,
hmm,
it did what it was supposed to do. Didn't have much of a kick to it. Um, it was a wonderful saw, I thought, for a small person, or I hate to say it this way, but for a woman who can't handle a full size chainsaw or doesn't have one, that they could use this chainsaw and prune their trees or cut some small trees down and stuff like that.
yeah,
And I thought that was a wonderful technology, because we didn't have anything like that. You either did it by hand, you did it with pruners, or you found somebody that had a full size chainsaw to take
yeah,
your saplings down and stuff like that. So
yeah,
it was great. I really enjoyed using it. My only
yeah,
problem is I'm a small person and my hands are small, and trying to start that, because it had a 2-button system. Of course I wore gloves for safety and etc., and I just couldn't
yeah,
get that dang thing to fire with the gloves on. I could without them, but my hands just weren't big enough. But
yeah.
I thought it was a great product, and so from my personal perspective, I'm seeing some things changing to give homeowners more ability to do some more DIYs without having this really big equipment, and hiring professionals who can use that really big equipment if it's required. So hopefully that trend will kind of continue going, because it's a pain trying to cut something with hand pruners.
Oh
So
yeah. Yeah, I laugh because I'm a girl, and uh, friend of mine, friend who's one of the uh, very early women in the arboriculture industry. It was a joke because back in the day when Fran was working for a tree company, she was her and the owner were the only ones who would run the big 4-foot chainsaw.
mhm,
All the guys were afraid of me,
mhm.
and it's I'm the only boy of 4 kids. You don't limit yourself. You learn how to do it. You learn how to use it. You
Mhm.
know, but yeah, look, older folks. My father's in the 70s. He's not going to take an 80 steel out and cut a foot and you know, take the bottom cut on a tree anymore. It's not going to happen.
Right.
He's 6'2". He's not a small man, but things change.
Right. Right.
But even the simple technology on chainsaws of having some vibration dampening. You
Mhm.
know, back in the day, almost every tree guy had no feeling left in their hands from using the chainsaws
Mhm.
because they were just direct and there was no vibration dampening.
Right.
Simple stuff like that. To now we have you know, chainsaws that aren't shaking, not making you deaf anymore. It's everything changes incrementally or it takes leaps and bounds.
Right. Right.
It's it.
I was an only child, so, and was raised on a farm. So if it needed to be done, I had to
You
do
do it?
it. It
Yeah,
didn't matter.
yeah,
I mean, I've split wood. I mowed the farm with the push mower. We weren't rich, and we didn't have a riding lawnmower. So,
yeah,
you know, still prefer to mow grass with a push mower. But it built character and all that
yeah.
stuff. But I really liked
It's
that small saw, because
yeah,
um and it was battery powered. I didn't have to worry about going down and getting gas or oil, or I could just
hmm,
whip it out, go do what I needed to do, and then put it up, charge the battery, and life was good. So I mean, I thought it was a really smart move for
oh yeah.
the urban
Th-
environment that we live in. So
This my guy. We do a lot of horticulture pruning over the winter. My guys have four chainsaws with 4-inch bars on them when we're doing some of the orchard pruning. because if you're sitting there all day back and forth with a hand saw, you're going to get tired. But, the ability to go through and take these little cuts all day and not, and not tire yourself out. One, you're going to be more on your game at the end of the day. You're going to be making better cuts and better decisions because you're not so physically tired.
Right.
And
fewer
that's,
mistakes. Yeah.
fewer mistakes. And, you can work, we're able to work 9 hours versus 8 hours, and, you get more production out of the people. Less logistics having to, okay, do we need to, this is a 4-day job, but I was able to do it in 3 because we're not so tired, because we have better resource available. And you also have a little more control in that they stop a little quicker.
Right.
It's nice, the
Technology is
battery's not going.
wonderful. It makes our life
It is.
easier and safer. So, for our listeners who are professionals in the field, what practical advice and best practices can you share? Let's talk about common issues and effective solutions.
Respect your clients and their time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
Just if you're running 10 minutes late for an appointment, call them. Say, hey, I'm running 10 minutes late. I thought I'd be there at 9. I'm not going to be there until 9:15, 9:20. Is that okay? Just the simple aspect of, hey, I'm a professional. My time is valuable. Your time is valuable. And that's gone very far. And I've had clients tell me, oh, thank you, Evan. You know what? Yeah, I had to get going at 9:30 and it's going to take 20 minutes. It's going to take 20 minutes to walk around your yard. Okay, well, why do we both need to be in a rush? Okay, cool. Hey, it happens. Things happen. I've had to run out to bring a crew something. I've had to fix a tire. I've run into traffic. Out of nowhere. In the middle of the day, oh darn, there's traffic here and I didn't expect it.
So do you feel that that is one aspect that separates Jolly Green Tree and Shrub Care from your competitors, is that you are using AI and stuff like that, but you're also still communicating, a real person is communicating with the customer? Do you think that sets you apart, or is that just a commonplace practice of your type of
I wish it was more commonplace practice. I'm seeing a lot of younger people, and that interpersonal skills are kind of going by the wayside.
Okay.
And I hate to tell you, this is still a service business. Anything you do is still a service business. You have to take care of your clients.
Right.
But keeping up on everything. We bought a customer management software and bought it in about 5 years ago. And that has made my life, and I've gotten a lot of time back in my life. My secretary has gotten a tremendous amount of time back in her day, utilizing the technology that's out there. The fact that I can put all my clients on a map and see when I got to schedule everything. It'll tell me, hey, you haven't been there in 22 days. That's a 21. You're supposed to be there every 21. Oh, okay, cool. And I can get it to prompt me. Hey, if it's been X amount of time since I've booked an appointment, hey, put it in there, get it in there. So
you think, in your opinion, there's a fine line of continuing the conversation and personal customer service and utilizing AI to organize your schedule, that type of thing, but not using AI to replace that personal touch. You think that's very important for any
it is very important. There's certain people who, I work for busy people. I work for, people who, they're not, what's happening to the trees isn't really a big aspect of their life. They just want everything to look nice, and certain people, will text you, will email you, will call you and let you know when we're coming. Certain people never want us to call because they don't have 3 minutes to get the phone call from the tree guy that they're coming tomorrow. Well, they're not going to be home anyway. They leave the house at 7 o'clock. They don't get home till 8 o'clock at night. They don't care what happened during the middle of the day. They just know that it's taken care of. Everyone is going to adopt the way that works for them. Other clients, they want to know when we're coming, what time we're coming, what truck's coming, which one of my crew members is coming. Okay.
So
we'll let you know.
You adapt your strategy according to what the client needs.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Evan, it's been fantastic having you on the show. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and expertise with us today. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow Timber Talks, the art and science of arboriculture, and subscribe for more in-depth discussions about the industry and its experts. Until next time, keep growing and stay rooted in knowledge. So do you have any questions for me, Evan?
Not really. You know,
Okay.
it's just getting information out there. You know, I'm on a lot of boards, and I like getting information out there to people. So
You like to educate.
I enjoy it. I actually teach. I teach. I think it's about 200 people a year to get their pesticide licenses.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
Great. Great.
yeah. I had to adopt something that one of my mentors passed away 2 weeks
Mm,
before the next scheduled class, and me and my friend Mark had to pick it up and teach the class.
mm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you, getting the knowledge out there. And I think in my area, people aren't willing to listen, but in certain areas of the country, people are willing to listen and adapt some
Hmm.
strategies for, the betterment of everyone, not just, their little
Yeah.
postage stamp of property type of thing. So
Yeah.
hopefully
Well,
it'll be heading in my area.
yeah. You got to know your market. You know, you go outside of Chicago, there's more people going to spend money on, fine plan healthcare. Where
Right.
you are, I don't know if you're in a rural area, not a big
I'm in
deal to them.
I'm in an area whose solution is to take a tree down.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, there's other things we can do. But that is that is the solution. Take the tree down. And I
Yeah.
live in a subdivision in a city, so the more trees
Hmm.
we take down, the hotter it's going to get. I'm right across the river from Louisville, Kentucky. So
Oh, okay.
I'm an Aggie, so I'm going, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
I mean, I started a community garden in my community, and nobody knew how to garden, so I had to
Huh.
teach them how to
Oh,
garden.
I walked across the bridge that connects Louisville and Indiana.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was in Louisville for the GIE convention a number of years ago.
Oh, okay.
And
Well,
someone told us, like, oh, if you go to the other side of that bridge, that's
yeah,
Indiana. So me and my wife walked across the bridge in Indiana.
I'm the county you walked into is the county I was raised in. It's called Floyd County, but I live in
Oh,
the
okay.
county next to that, and um, it was a culture shock for me when I moved, because when I was born, I lived in Louisville till I was 5, and I don't really remember
Hmm.
that, but that was in like a subdivision. And then we moved to the country, and that's what I call home. And so, yeah, it was a big culture shock for me of how um controlling people could be in the country. Nobody cares, they just don't care. And in an urban environment, they do care. And I've had a lot of, I've been here 34 years, unfortunately, but I continue to learn the difference between rural and urban, and the
Hmm.
attitudes toward property rights, toward plant material, toward, a bunch of things. I used to have a garden,
Hmm.
and my neighbors would steal my produce, and I have an issue with that. I have a privacy fence,
Hmm.
and I worked, and they would steal my produce, and nobody cared. Well, we have the right. No, you don't have the right. I don't bother. I don't care what you do on your property. Don't stick your nose in my business on my
They
property.
would steal your produce.
Yes, they would steal I had my dog shot. I had a Siberian Husky, and somebody stood up on a transformer box, aimed a pellet rifle over the privacy fence, and shot my Siberian Husky 24 times. And it wasn't an issue. And in the country, it is an issue. It is a
You
big
get
issue.
shot for shooting someone's dog.
Yeah, it's a big issue. If in the state of Indiana, you can take an animal down if it's causing property damage, but my dog was on my property. So,
Hmm.
if she was going to cause damage, It was
your property.
it was my property. And I mean, just from kids standing on the transformer box and spitting on my kids. Well, you know, that's not an issue. Well, in the country, no, that's not going to happen. If it happens and mom and dad find out about it, it's going to be addressed. So it's been a life lesson of living in an urban environment, because memory doesn't go back that far to remember the urban environment like that. But hopefully some things will start changing. I had to, in the city I live in, it is against the law to have an invasive species that's viewed an invasive species in the state of Indiana. It's against the law to have it in your landscape. Yeah. So I had a bull thistle that came up voluntarily, and I was growing it for a purpose, because I write books and I'm an international author, and I needed a picture. So I was growing it for a purpose. And the city came around and tried to cite me for having an invasive species growing in my yard. And so I asked who the invasive species expert was, and I didn't get an answer. But anyway, the city had planted an invasive species bee balm, and in the state of Indiana, it's labeled an invasive species in their landscaping. And I was like, okay, I'll take my bull thistle down. You take your bee balm down, because that's an invasive species. So it's just been an interesting time. But hopefully some of this new ideas of preserving trees and valuing trees, I'll head over to my area. Hopefully. Well, I guess I will let you go, Evan.
All righty. Nice to meet you. Have fun.
Have a nice day. You have a lot of tree trimming today?
We don't trim trees. We just treat them.
Oh, okay. Do you have a lot of treatments for your?
Yeah, I have all the crews are out this morning.
Oh, okay.
Everybody's out.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.